listening to the X-Files Rewatch podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kim.
Do you have any news?
I do not.
Hey, okay.
But we are on the end of season 6 today.
We are. So yes, another season down. We have 5 to go.
Plus the Lone Gunman.
6 to go, and a film.
Hooray!
Hooray!
And we still haven't talked about the video games, which we should at some point.
That's true. Well, that'll come after Six Extinction Part 2. We're going to get into the X-Files game.
The FMV one.
The FMV one. And we discuss our trials and tribulations with the thing.
Quite.
I suppose then, in the meantime, we should go to North Carolina.
Hooray!
To the Brown Mountain.
Hooray!
And come afoul of something horrible.
Hooray!
You're very excited about this.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Field Trip, directed by Kim Manners, story by Frank Spotnitz, teleplay by Vince Gilligan and John Shaban. Shaban! But I like this one again. So, first broadcast on the 9th of May 1999. Guest stars. So these were interesting.
Okay.
Robin Lively played Angela Schiff.
Okay.
She was in Twin Peaks.
Oh, was she?
And she was in the old Twin Peaks as well. This is first time round.
Okay, who was she?
She was Lana Budding Milford. Do you remember the bizarre bit when the mayor has a feud with this other guy over marrying a younger woman?
Yeah.
She's a younger woman.
Oh, right. Fair enough.
But that's not all, because when I was looking at this, I had one of those, oh, of course it's him moments.
Is this with regards to Angela's fiancé, boyfriend?
Husband. David Denman played Wallace Schiff. Do you know him best as Roy in The Office?
Oh, Roy is Pam's fiancé?
That's him.
Okay, I wouldn't have recognised him.
Nope. I mean, this was a good 10 years beforehand. But it also means that he's the dad in Brightburn.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah, of course he is.
And because this is going to get weird in a second, though the Biogenesis one has a very weird thing I did not see coming. Okay, he was also in Joyride. That film we watched recently.
The one with Candy Cane.
Yeah, the
trucker chasing people. Yeah.
So, hold on to that a minute. Okay, so the other guest star in this episode is Jim Beaver, who played the coroner. That's all his name is.
Okay.
So he's in Sister Act. Joyride.
Ah.
What are the chances?
There you go.
Crimson Peak.
Oh, yeah.
Star Trek Enterprise. The Tremors TV series. And I only bring this up because it's suddenly significantly big for Supernatural. He is Bobby Singer.
Oh, he's Bobby. Bobby's from the start.
Is Bobby from the start?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
He's their family friend.
Yeah, that's him.
Ah.
Also, he's in Breaking Bad.
Oh, right.
And Better Call Saul. I have a sneaking suspicion he's got to be the guy who sells water to the guns.
I can't picture him, but yeah, maybe.
But he's in both series.
Okay.
In multiple episodes, so he's going to crop up somewhere along the line.
So, do you want to give us a synopsis of Field Trip?
I can. From Wikipedia. In Boone, North Carolina, Wallace and Angela Schiff return home after a day hiking in the fields. Angela gets a headache, and while taking a shower, thinks that she sees images of a yellow substance running down the walls. The pair head off to bed in one another's arms, but then the viewpoint suddenly shifts to the middle of a field where their skeletal remains are visible in the same position. Mulder and Scully investigate, and after a close examination of the bones, the two find a strange yellow substance covering the underside of the skeletons, which was missed in the visual examination. Mulder believes the bodies are a result of the famous Brown Mountain lights and heads to the scene of the discovery, while Scully stays behind with the coroner to perform more tests. As Mulder arrives in the fields, he inadvertently drives over a patch of mushrooms, which releases a cloud of spores. He soon discovers Wallace and Angela Schiff in a cave, and the two claim they were abducted by aliens, who covered up their disappearances with false skeletons. Sometime later, Scully arrives at Mulder's apartment, and Mulder explains to Scully what happened. He shows her an alien that he captured at Brown Mountain. Scully, however, accepts his reasoning without question, and Mulder begins to doubt his surroundings. Eventually, after seeing the yellow substance much like Angela, Mulder awakens in the cave he followed Wallace into earlier, covered in the yellow secretion, being digested alive. Meanwhile, Scully has discovered the yellow substance consists mainly of organic material found in digestive juices, though it appears plant-like. Arriving at the field, Scully accidentally steps on another mushroom, and Scully and the coroner start to look for Mulder, only to find his skeletal remains. Returning to the coroner's office, Scully identifies Mulder's remains from his dental records, but finds no evidence of the secretion on the skeleton. Mulder is declared dead, and at Mulder's wake, the lone gunmen are in attendance, and then later Mulder arrives, clearly alive. Everyone present at the wake disappears, and Mulder and Scully discuss what has happened. They both realise they are still in a cave, being digested by the substance while they are comatose. Somehow they are sharing the same hallucination. As the realization occurs, they both awaken deep in the cave, and Mulder fights his way out of the ground, dragging Scully up behind him. Later in Skinner's office, Mulder begins again to doubt that they are free at all, asking Scully to name any sort of drug that causes its effects to halt once the users know they are hallucinating. Scully is in disbelief until Mulder proves his point by shooting Skinner in the chest. Yellow substance oozes out of the bullet wounds. Once again, their surroundings melt away as they awaken underground in the cave. Mulder manages to stick his hand through the earth, concealing as Skinner and a team of rescue staff manage to locate them and drag them out and haul them to the safety of an ambulance. Once inside the ambulance, Mulder and Scully weakly hold hands.
Aww.
There's some good Scully stuff for you.
I'm not sure how authentic you can call it, given it was all a dream.
Yeah, and we'll get to it in a minute, but one thing I thought reading the synopsis is, it sounds a lot like one of the reasons why we got ourselves a game over in the X-Files game by shooting Skinner.
I basically shot everyone going through that game.
Yes. I don't think we actually have footage of the time you did manage to successfully shoot Skinner, because you tried a few times and it didn't work. But one time you managed it. But anyway, so our new theory for the X-Files going forward, and there's a few video games you can do this with us as well, like Final Fantasy VIII is an example.
Okay.
There is a theory called the Squall is Dead theory.
At what point did Squall die, then?
The end of Disc 1.
Okay, when he's stabbed, yeah.
When he's stabbed by the ice crystals, there's a fan theory that basically the entire rest of the game doesn't actually happen, or is in his subconscious as he's dying.
Fair enough.
Which is one it's like the Pokemon Comatose one of, okay, that's, I can see how you got there, and it's a thought experiment you can do.
That's the theory that when Ash is electrocuted by Pikachu right at the start of the series, he's put in a coma.
Yeah, and everyone in the series is basically patients or doctors or whatever, people in the hospital. And it's one of these kind of like edgelord dark theories of, I can see how you've got there, and it's interesting as a thought experiment. It's absolutely not what anyone who worked on this intended you to take from it.
Yeah.
No one is putting this out there unless you have the reveal scene at the end, and that's very old hat these days.
I imagine your example of it done well would be Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah. It's probably the only case, and that's, again, you have to have the reveal at the end of it, otherwise it doesn't work. Unless you have the explicit reveal, you can't do it. But we can't discount the fact that basically none of the rest of the X-Files ever happens after this point.
Yeah, it's all like
all those associations.
Like a butterfly dream, yeah.
I mean, given the state of biogenesis, it's kind of preferable, really.
True.
We're a bit mean, but biogenesis is that's a trip. But yeah, we can safely say that Scully will survive this, because we know she's immortal and the universe will end if she dies.
Yeah, true.
And reset itself.
Apparently it was a conscious thing to do in the series, because it's essentially a dream episode at its core, but they wanted to make clear throughout, and I think they do very well, that there is always a danger to Mulder and Scully's lives despite it being a dream, so it didn't wind up with the J.R.ing in the shower sort of Dallas write-off.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever sort of thought they were actually in danger in this. Like, the yellow goo and sort of being trapped underground with basically no way out of it is a great kind of tense situation to put them into. Because
it's a situation you can't see any way out of either.
Yeah.
As they point out later in the episode, you can't will yourself out of a hallucination.
No, and it's and it good for Mulder's cognitive thinking to say, "Wait a minute, we can't possibly have done this." I like that, but then again, the episode still falls into that problem of they're both clearly cognizant they're now above ground again, when the hallucinations should still be doing very strange things to their perceptions.
There's actually a really interesting take on this episode, written in their book Philosophy of TV Noir, by Gerald J. Abrams and Elizabeth F. Cook, where it does a kind of reading into this episode in the sense of abductive logic, which is this kind of philosophical thought experiment, which shows that you can kind of boil down a statement to its logical conclusion and therefore prove if the statement is true or false. So the example you use a lot in philosophy is, when it rains, the streets are wet.
Yeah.
So by that argument, if you have the premise, it is raining, you can posit, therefore the streets are wet, and it's a kind of reasoned argument. Whereas if you turn it on its head, it's, when it rains, the streets are wet, the streets are wet, therefore it is raining, is a false logic.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like at a glance it's correct, But when you think about it, there are a myriad of other reasons why the streets may be wet.
Yes.
And that kind of falls down to the way Scully in particular presents things in this episode, because she tries to have her reasoned argument of what's actually going on here, but Mulder jumps straight to C.
Yes. Every time.
And in the same way, Scully quickly reasons that something is going wrong around her by the way everything is positing her kind of abductive logic argument back to her, in exactly the same words she used to describe it.
I do like that when people are saying, oh, we think it was killed in a ritualistic thing and the bones were stripped by boiling or by acid. When Bayer starts saying it to her.
It's a clever way of showing that something's a bit uncanny valley in the episode.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly to the word the theory Scully had earlier, and everybody in, obviously her hallucination, it's her subconscious, are just feeding this one statement back to her over and over. And it's that kind of person in a coma logic with the same phrase just on repeat.
Yeah.
Same phrase, exact same words, and through doing that you can make quite clear to the audience that something is not right here.
Yeah, it's just the certainty with which people say it back to her is hilarious.
It's a bit like that Futurama episode where Leela's in the coma and people in her hallucination keep saying "wake up" to her.
Yes, and it's usually Fry as well. But special mention has to go, I think, to the Lone Gunman for having like the most hilarious cameo bit in the series to date, and just Langley's Byers is dressed normally, Fro Hickey is just drinking, and Langley has showed up in a tuxedo t-shirt.
It's very Langley, though.
It's very Langley. I mean, I'm not disputing it, but it's a lovely little detail that Scully's ways put together that, yes, this is what Langley would do in this situation.
A lot of people compare this episode to Bad Blood as well. Because this is essentially the unreliable narrator multiple story plot done seriously.
Yes. Oh yeah, it's a great actual horror episode, even though there are some just outright hilarious moments in it. Mostly I think it's like Mulder's Wake is just bizarre. It's just so weird it becomes funny again.
It's the things because it works on dream logic that don't make sense. So Scully going to Mulder's apartment and finding the wake already going on.
Yeah. And they've cleared out Mulder's bedroom and put a coffin in there and everything.
Yeah.
But I also like, but even Mulder's one though is just when you stop and think about it for a second, which the episode doesn't really let you do, but it just becomes increasingly stupid. Because it's a case of Scully walks into the apartment, it's like, here are the shifts we found the dead bodies of.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we were abducted by aliens. And then quick, Scully come over here and takes her to the bedroom, and there's just a grey alien in the corner.
Mulder must just be used to being right, though. I mean, he finds Walt Schiff, who relates to him the same story about the Brown Mountain Lights that Mulder believes. And Mulder, yep, right, that's my evidence. Off I go.
But it's nice though that Mulder starts doubting it because it's the skeletons jar because they don't fit into anything he's ever read about alien abductions. This is a weird oddity that doesn't make sense to him.
Yeah.
And that's like the fault line of the entire thing.
For Mulder, anyway.
For Mulder. For Scully, it's being told her kind of flippant but sort of logical premise at the start.
But also when she starts to doubt her own premise, people still keep reading back to her and saying, no, that's the right answer. So she gets a bit of a taste of her own medicine in there. Yeah,
and in the case of, no, that's not the most logical conclusion. Doesn't make any sense at all. The one thing I do think is a tad odd is just, so the fungus has pulled these people underground. We don't actually know how it does that, to be honest.
No.
The synopsis kind of implied that you have to go into the cave, but I don't think that's true at all.
No. I don't think you ever see that necessarily because from the point when they spread the spores standing on the little puffball, anything could be false.
Yes. And I like that as a detail, though, that you actually see that happen in both cases, so you know it's going to happen.
That is a puffball mushroom. That's how they behave as well. If you agitate them, we even get them here in the UK. They release like a little cloud of spores into the air quite violently like that.
And you're never going to do it again, are you?
Not after this, no.
But
I believe at least our local species is harmless.
As far as you know, we don't know in a hallucination right now.
Yeah, true.
But I like that, and you don't see how they get sucked down underground, but it is slightly implausible to have that nice match cut at the start where the shifts are in bed together, kind of cuddled up, and then their skeletons in the same position come morning light.
It's really creepy.
It's really creepy, but how is that happening? Because presumably the mushroom will just sort of shove them up out of the ground when it's done with them. For them to fall into that position is a bit much. But otherwise, though, I still remember the first time I watched this, it's a case of, you've no idea what's going on. Things are getting very strange already. And then you have the match cut to the skeletons because, wow, that's actually...
Apparently they even consulted with a body farm just to get these skeletons looking kind of accurate, in terms of the stages of decay and things like that. So a lot of effort went into making this look good.
Yeah, it's exceptionally creepy how they've done it. The same can't be said for the bits where reality starts to break down a bit.
Oh, you mean the melting?
The melting. I mean, the yellow slime coming out of water sources is kind of great in a very weird, confusing way, and seeing it come down walls is fine. The film of yellow slime, that's a bit messy, but then when people dissolve, you're going, really?
I think they called it in the production notes something like movie star dissolving. The general idea behind it was they tried to do it other ways, and you can't have Mulder and Scully looking ugly while they dissolve. So they had to have this phase where they just kind of bubble away and none of their features melt or distort in any way.
It looks so 90s special effects, unfortunately.
Yeah, the XL special effects this season actually haven't been bad, but that one's particularly awful.
Yeah, and I do feel it's kind of... I think it's one of the biggest faults you could point to the episode of, you've got this amazing atmosphere and you're ruining it like once every 20 minutes by doing this.
Mm.
If it wasn't that kind of abrupt, or you sort of handled the transition periods a bit better, you'd have probably one of the scariest episodes of a lot of them.
It does maintain its creepiness well, in the sense you don't know exactly what's going on. The only thing you've got to kind of push you in the right direction is the puffball mushroom.
Yes. And, the occasional glimpses of... I think Mulder has one of the glimpse of being underground, and so does Angela, actually, in the shower.
When they're covered in... It's actually some kind of food thickener that's been coloured with that sickly yellow food dye that's coating them. But it's tremendously creepy, and especially the bit where they come out of one dream and straight into another one. You're in that point where you start to doubt any reality.
Yes.
So, we don't know if they're out the dream now.
No. And we'll maintain this going forward, so every episode after this is indeed them being killed by mushrooms.
Seems about right.
Seems about right.
The Brown Mountain Lights, the kind of crux of this episode, it's actually a real phenomena.
Yes. Like, a good number of his things actually are based on real things. I mean, there's actually weird smattering of... Mulder has some real-world stuff mixed in with some show-specific stuff.
I believe that there are lots of theories about what causes Brown Mountain Lights, because it is an actual phenomena. And, people doubt the semantics and whether or not it's ghosts or aliens, of course, is in the mix.
Yeah.
But it is kind of like will-o-wisps that are seen over the mountain.
Okay. It's interesting. I mean, I do like the view of the aliens, or when Mulder's a hallucination, what we think of as the aliens, is there's just enough of it to sort of tally with previous abduction scenes and how the aliens manifest, like the brilliant bright light, white and everything. At the same time, you as the audience should be saying, no, what are they doing? They're chasing you into a cave? They don't normally bother with this cat and mouse stuff. They just grab you.
Yeah.
And you can't hide from them. They know where you are.
I guess even in the faux abductions like Ascension, you've got that idea of the bright light and being unable to move still.
Yeah. I think, and Tempest Fugit was one of the clearest examples of how it works. And there's basically nothing you can do if you're on the inside at that point.
Yeah.
That's kind of just inferred. They could have made more of that, of connecting it to the fungus, as in the fungus is why the Brown Mountain Lights are happening.
I don't think they ever make that connection. They just stopped mentioning the Brown Mountain Lights after a while.
And I think we're possibly meant to infer that, but I think there could be a follow-up or something, like something about the excretion processes of dissolving human bodies is causing this.
One of the key theories into what causes will-o'-the-wisp, well, not even theories, people know, is it's swamp gas igniting. I don't know what the terrain is like around the Brown Mountain, but, that sort of idea is it's some sort of methane excretion as this fungus dissolves animals.
Yeah, so I think that would all tie together, but we don't get that. It does seem a missed opportunity, and I think it's a criticism we've leveled against a few episodes of, however they started with, they sometimes latch onto an idea and then just run right with that and ignore how they started.
But mushrooms are cool.
Mushrooms are cool and also terrifying, and I don't want to go anywhere near this bit of North Carolina.
But fungi are just really interesting and really good as a kind of alien species. Just because you've got this thing that isn't a plant, but it's not an animal either.
Yeah, they're weird and creepy.
And like it says in the episode, for whichever bit of the fungus you see on the surface, it can go for absolutely, meters or even miles underground.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a terrifying concept in on its own.
And just presumably it's relegated to this kind of more or less wilderness area, otherwise you'd have a lot more people go missing.
I guess even in modern times, we've kind of hinged on the fact now that mushrooms are terrifying, because you've got the way things like The Last of Us uses cordyceps.
Yes.
And just our increased knowledge of cordyceps, the mushroom that takes over ants.
Yeah, I don't like that one either.
So yeah, we know that fungi are capable of some creepy stuff that seems just totally sci-fi, even though it occurs in real world. So it's a great subject for an episode on that basis.
Oh yeah, but also predates a lot of the cordyceps kind of obsession.
Well, this one is more of a kind of man-eating plant.
Yeah, they do
It's
mention...
got more of the logic of something like a pitcher plant they're falling into.
And they do mention pitcher plants on the Venus flytrap specifically. Which makes sense. I mean, I do remember one of the quirks about them is meant to be they are in mineral-starved soil, which is why they've become carnivorous. You kind of expect more kind of deserty terrain for it to be in then, rather than for the kind of lush greenery they had up there.
But fungi tend to thrive in swamp areas. They like damp, dark places.
True, but it wouldn't seem a very swampy place either. I think it's a slight mismatch between the visuals.
I guess so.
It's a minor thing because they're restricted to what they can get to from LA now, rather than what they can get to from Vancouver.
I mean, if you ever grow mushrooms, they tend to do best in like airing cupboards and stuff like that because they like it being cool and dark and damp.
But warm and dark and damp, presumably. Do we have much else about this episode? I mean, I think it's just flat out, it's a really good one, and that kind of makes it troublesome again.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I guess it's a bit repetitive just because you've got the same lines of dialogue spoken over and over again, but in turn, this is one of the rare accounts where that actually makes it more effective.
Well, I'd say it's also, the repetition actually makes it funnier as well. I mean, it's like the Jose Chung one of you telling anyone you're a dead man. The fact that just keeps coming up over and over and over again.
Jose Chung's actually another episode that people compare to this one.
I can see that. An
guess
unreliable narrator again.
Yeah, any episode where you've got an unreliable narrator, you've got this feel. Though I think this is the first time the X-Files has really done that to do a serious episode.
Yes. Yeah, normally you'd get this a comedy thing like Bad Blood being, as they said, the example of a kind of contrast to this one. But if you have nothing else, we need to bio some Genesises.
That is one of your worst segues yet.
Well, I can't say I don't have good reason to make this terrible. Biogenesis, directed by Rob Bowman, written by Chris Carter and Frank Spotnitz, first broadcast on the 16th of May 1999. Guest stars, there's a lot of familiar faces, but one of the new ones is Michael Ensign, who played Dr. Barnes.
Okay.
Right. So just bear with me for this one. So he was on Raise the Titanic.
Okay.
He was in Pink Floyd, The Wall, as a hotel manager.
Fair enough.
Right. He was in War Games.
Okay, yeah.
He was in Ghostbusters as a hotel manager.
I'm seeing a theme.
That's where it ends, but he's the guy who calls Ghostbusters in to deal with Slimer.
Oh, okay.
That's him.
Oh, fair enough.
He's been on Star Trek Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise.
Okay.
Completely different characters. Kellen in the City.
Oh.
Third Rock from the Sun. Did various voices in Bioshock 2.
Okay, cool.
He's in Crash Bandicoot.
Oh.
As Dr. Nefarious Tropy. Who I hope that means something to you.
He's the baddie.
He's a baddie. Okay, he's a baddie. I've never played the thing. So, would you like to tell us what happens in Biogenesis?
I mean, I can try.
I mean, to be fair, it's reasonably straightforward. It just goes, what? Why?
Once again, ad-libbed from Wikipedia. Our episode this time opens on a beach on the Ivory Coast. We see a metal shard which is covered with weird inscriptions being discovered by Solomon McMarlin, who is a biology professor. When he takes it to his office and pieces it together with a similar shard he's found, the two suddenly fuse together and fly across the room, embedding in the side of a Bible. Specifically, as he pulls it out, we see that it's embedded in a relevant section of Genesis. McMullen travels to the US to meet with Stephen Sandoz, who is a biologist at an American university and who also has a piece of the artifact. However, he is quickly murdered by a man who is pretending to be Sandoz. When the real Sandoz finds the body, he flees. Skinner assigns Mulder and Scully to investigate Sandoz's disappearance, giving them a rubbing of McMullen's artifact. Mulder tells Skinner that both McMullen and Sandoz are advocates of a theory called panspermia. This is the idea that there is an extraterrestrial origin to all life on Earth. After looking at the rubbing, Mulder starts to suffer from headaches and finds at times he can't hear Scully speaking to him. This is seemingly caused by some tinnitus caused by the rubbing. The agents head to the university and meet Dr. Barnes, who we realise is the man who pretended to be Sandoz, who professes disbelief in his theories. Mulder gets increasingly unwell during this, but refuses to go to hospital. He seems to develop telepathic abilities and realises that Barnes is McMullen's murderer. Later, Scully invites Chuck Burks to the office, who tells them that the symbols on the artifact are from Navajo and that they have to be fake. Mulder and Scully investigate Sandoz's apartment and find a photograph of him with Albert Hosteen. This is the Native American codebreaker that Mulder and Scully previously dealt with back in Anasazi. They also managed to find McMullen's dismembered body in a trash bag, which apparently had been missed by the other investigators. Mulder and Scully report back to Skinner their belief that Sandoz has been framed and that the artifact emits galactic radiation, something Scully cannot explain. Mulder realises as well, potentially by using his powers, that there is someone else involved with the case, but Skinner refuses to tell him who he is. After the agents leave, it is revealed that Skinner has been filming their entire conversation, and he gives Alec Krycek the tape. Krycek later provides this to Barnes. Scully travels to New Mexico in the hope of getting Albert to translate the rubbing, however discovers that he is dying of cancer. At the hospital she runs into Sandoz and corners him. He claims that Albert was helping him to translate the artifacts, which included passages from the Bible. Meanwhile, Mulder goes to the university to tail Barnes, but is overwhelmed by his crippling headaches and collapses in the stairs. Scully contacts Mulder, who is resting at home after his collapse. He tells her that he is certain now that the artifact is proof that humanity was created by aliens, but we see that the person who is caring from him is Diana Foley, who, as soon as Mulder is out of earshot, contacts the cigarette-smoking man. Scully attends a healing ceremony which is being held for Albert, but is forced to leave when Skinner contacts her to tell her that Mulder has been hospitalised. As she rushes to the hospital, she sees Mulder as being held in a padded cell, displaying abnormal function in parts of the brain that aren't usually used. After realising that Skinner knows about their earlier conversation with Burks, Scully denounces both him and Fowley, who is also at the hospital, before she leaves. She rips apart the X-Files office looking for a surveillance camera and almost finds it, as the audience see it is hidden within the smoke alarm. However, she is called at Sandoz by that moment, who tells her that the gibberish symbols on the artifact are actually a map of the human genome. While still on the phone with Scully, Sandoz is shot and killed by Krycek. Following this, Scully heads to the Ivory Coast, where she is taken to where the artifact was found. She actually discovers that the artifact is part of an enormous spaceship which is partially buried in the sand of the beach.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, start of a new mythology arc. That's a lot like the old mythology arc, if we're totally honest.
Yes, but worse somehow. Worse and dumber, and do you get the impression that Chris Carter and Frank Spotness have never actually looked at the Bible, or know anything about the Bible, or how it was written, or how it came to be in the present day?
Aliens.
Enough of that. There's so much. I mean, to pick a wild one at the start is that bit of metal when it fuses together and flies across the room and smashes into the Bible.
To be fair, when we say it smashes into Genesis, it actually cuts through the entire spine. Well, it just falls open on the Book of Genesis.
That's what was one of my first ones of, just open it to that God gave dominion over the birds and beasts of the sea or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You can flip over a few pages and have a very different thing. I'm sure we can get into the Deuteronomists and go, what? Who?
It's really confusing when it opens to Book of Job.
Yeah, for example, and you go, but, I mean, I'm also going to go with, why does it do that? Because I don't get it. Because let's back up a bit to one of the big reveals of the weird symbols on this bit of metal are Navajo.
And indeed spelling out that same Book of Genesis.
Yeah, and there's two bits we have to go with here. Which is, one is, Navajo is not that ancient a language. If you wanted to put it, if you put it into Sanskrit, if you put it into the language of I think we'd have a much easier time of this.
Mm.
Navajo is, biologically speaking for humanity, reasonably recent, like most languages we still have.
Hmm.
So that's a weird choice.
Well, that's part of the thing, is it's supposed to be uncanny.
Yeah, but at the same time, that still doesn't make any sense, though. It's like, can we get the guy who plays Alfred in? We better have something with Navajo for him to translate. Like, but that doesn't make any sense.
And technically, we don't get Alfred in, we just see him in a hospital bed.
Yeah, it was a real good use of his time there. But okay, so we have a bit of metal from the aliens, which has got Navajo symbols on it, and we're insinuating this is the origin of all life on Earth.
Yeah.
So the Navajo language predates every other form of communication.
You've already had that kind of connection between the Native American peoples and the aliens in Anasazi and the Blessing Way.
Yes. I'm not saying we don't have it, but that was, they abducted an entire tribe of Native Americans versus the aliens gave you a language, which is a bit weird. But and then we get on to the bit that really, if you know anything about the Bible and how it's written and how the modern day Bible works, you go, that's not how that works. Because Alfred has translated that portion of Navajo script and it reads the same as the book of Genesis that the guy had in Africa. And that might sound fine to you, unless you factor in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It can be translated in whole different ways. There's a lot of things that people think about the Bible in the West aren't true from how it was originally written. There are multiple interpretations and multiple translations of the Bible. That's why you get all the different variants of them, because they're all translated slightly differently.
In conclusion, you're not happy with this.
I'm not happy with it. I don't understand why, but...
But at least we've finally got to the bottom of the fact that all Bibles are magnetic.
Yes. And also, the aliens gave us the Bible when, well, when they arrived 5 million years ago, they had the Bible relating to events from 2,000 years ago from the present day.
Maybe they made multiple trips back, because there was also that time when they built the pyramids.
Well, yeah, we've never actually gone into that one.
I don't think the X-Files has,
No.
One of the books goes into them inspiring the Incans to build pyramids, I believe.
Okay.
Ruins, the adult
Ruins.
novel.
That makes sense. But I mean, this has got shades of Prometheus, and I think, I can't believe I'm saying this, Prometheus handled it slightly better, even though Prometheus does imply that Jesus was an engineer. That's not what we're reading into things. That is Ridley Scott said that.
Nick is complimenting Prometheus here,
Yeah,
right now, saying good things about an Alien sequel.
Or prequel, actually. There's a comment, I think, from Frank Spotnitz of, they're amazed they got away with this. And I think the only reason they got away with sort of implying that aliens gave Earth religion is because it doesn't make any sense. Because we kind of touched on this in Talitha Kumi.
With the Miracle Man.
Yes, and not only Miracle Man, but when he's talking to Cancer Man afterwards, when they've got him imprisoned, there's a very long conversation which is kind of weirdly sort of mixing up religion and other kind of faiths at the same time.
Mm.
And that's the last time we touched on this, and we've never done anything with it, but we didn't imply in that one that, yeah, we gave you life and also religion. But not all religions, just Christianity in Navajo, which the Navajo people do not believe in.
I'm not sure if that's an indication that we're supposed to be thinking that Christianity is genuine or false on that basis. Because we've had some pretty good evidence in the series that Christianity is on the level.
Yes.
As are several other religions, because we're bearing in mind we've had Haitian voodoo in this series and Tibetan thought forms as well.
Yes.
So you've got other religions in there too. But specifically, Scully has literally encountered angels and devils.
Yep. And the prophesized
The Second Coming.
The Second Coming, yeah, we've actually met him. So this is just a very weird thing to throw in. And I'm still going to go with, why is it in Navajo? Because as you said, the thing even Scully says is, this artifact makes no sense. It's clearly fake, but on the other hand, it makes no sense as a fake. So what is it? And that's probably a good place to start from. A artifact that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you could bring time travel into this, I think a whole lot of this would resolve fine, because this is something...
We know time travel exists.
We do know time travel exists. Generally, no one does it. It's only happened, like, once.
Mm.
And the circumstances behind that are very peculiar. But if it was a time-displaced artifact, I think you could kind of just sort of struggle through this.
Even if you made it like a Rosetta Stone, where it had different dialects on it.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know why... The Rosetta Stone's a great example, but I don't know why you'd have the Bible in Navajo still. That's really odd.
No, the Bible's no choice, but if you had writing where it was some undecipherable alien hieroglyphics, Navajo and Latin, let's say, on it.
Yeah, that would be better. Because I think the other problem is that Navajo as a language currently is dying out, so it makes even less sense to do that. So we've got that, and then I realised the other thing, though, is this chunk of metal, which they fused with the other chunk of metal, which we don't know what it is, and the third chunk of metal I don't think we ever see.
No, I don't believe we do. It's just...
He just has it.
mentioned.
And it's giving off galactic cosmic radiation. And Scully, you really should be pausing a bit more to find that this guy has got that, because that's legitimately impossible in the solar system.
I feel if it's literally radioactive, we should be holding it less as well.
That too. Well, it's like that's fear in the game again, isn't it?
Mm.
But isn't the implication of this, though, that you've got something that's been coated with radiation from outside the solar system that cannot get into this point in the solar system because of various magnetic fields? And the implication of that is that it's because on the exterior of the craft that it's absorbing it? Would you say?
I guess so, or it's just in the presence of it so long that it's become irradiated.
Did this bit of metal break off from the hull?
I guess it must have been. You don't see the entire ship because it's
No.
under the sand, so it could be that the entire back of it's in shreds or something.
It could be. We've got to ask how they managed to crash that in. And also, it crashed in Africa, the cradle of humanity, cradle of civilization, all the rest of it. So I can see what you're doing here. Not sure why you're doing it.
But also, back in Fallen Angel, it's inferred that loads of different countries of the world have this agreement to clean up any evidence of alien life.
Yeah, no one's noticed this one.
Apparently, Africa's not part of this.
No. Well, the other thing is...
Or they've really just dropped something here, and it's like, oh yeah, we missed that massive sunken spacecraft over there.
Well,
whoops, our bad.
What got me is the scientists are there when it washes. They find the metal in the water, and then Scully's taken back to the place where they found it, and there's a spaceship there. Did the other guy miss that, or did just enough sand wash away? Because I don't think there's been enough time passed for enough sand to wash away to go, oh, there's not something else here, bigger and more impressive, and oh my god, it's a UFO.
It makes you wonder how slowly it's been eroding there as well, because it is literally in an ankle depth water off the coast. It's not like it's a mile out to sea or something like that. They found it,
which I would buy much more if you only just found it. I do also realise that...
Or a cliff's crumbled away and it was in the cliff face, or something that would conceal it.
I think they wanted that overhead shot. And I did realise as well, though, that we kind of ruined that effect of that shot by watching it in widescreen. Because that would have been, at the time, the pan out from Scully on the beach at the end. You wouldn't have seen the ship until the camera was quite far back.
Oh, okay.
So
we saw it a lot sooner.
We saw it from the second the shot change, but you're not meant to see it that early on. It's meant to be a big reveal.
That shot is great, to be fair.
Oh, it's a really good shot. I do have to ask, though, why is Scully there?
What, she suddenly shot to the Ivory Coast?
Yeah, given that she just said, "You, Skinner, you Fowley are traitors. I'm going to Africa.
But I'll leave my vulnerable friend in your care."
Yeah, to look for this bit of metal I haven't personally seen, except as a rubbing, that is making my partner develop ESP.
Scully did see the third part.
Did she?
Barnes has it in the hospital.
Ah, okay. And that's where you got the Bible quote from. Yeah.
Or
okay.
Sandoz. No, he's Sandoz, isn't he?
Sandoz
has... I kept getting the characters mixed up when I was writing my notes on this.
Horrible.
But Sandoz has it because they put it on the table in front of Albert and it spins round.
I love that this bit of metal spinning on a table everyone takes it as, magical properties, and not, there's a device for that, which is just going to rotate
Albert's just
around.
chuckling.
Yeah.
He's not actually unconscious, he's just chuckling away with his Magnus on the table.
But okay, so Scully does see the bit of metal. We do see it in the episode. Why has she gone to the Ivory Coast?
At this stage, why wouldn't you? Apart from the fact your friend is not doing terribly... Alright, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt is she wants to find a way to cure Mulder.
Yeah.
Because it's quite clear that he's gone a bit funny after seeing just a rubbing of this.
And I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but that's not how Scully does things. She normally does lots of tests and there's lots of science involved.
Scully has been changing over the course of the series, to be fair. She's becoming more of a... let's say more open to believing Mulderish theories.
True. But, I mean, if in your position as Scully, would you go to the Ivory Coast and start delving around in the shallows looking for another bit of metal that will give you cosmic galactic radiation?
To be fair, the first thing I would have done is test that paper sample to make sure it wasn't horrendously radioactive.
I remember this slightly wrong, but I still can't make sense of it. Because I remember as the second Mulder sees the rubbing, he starts getting affected by it, and it's not immediate. It does take time to kick in.
It only takes a couple of minutes.
It does. And then you've got to say, what is going on with this? How does that work?
It's creepy.
It's creepy.
It's like in kind of like H.P. Lovecraft stories where somebody reads from the Necromonicon and just loses their mind. Or, Chambers and the King in Yellow.
Yeah, well, actually, I was going to say, I'd make it more akin to the start of Call of Cthulhu, where the guy has carved the bas relief of Cthulhu. And he shows it to Sid, and you never even get to see that because you get this account secondhand.
Yeah.
That's pretty creepy.
No, think of it in the case of The King in Yellow, where you have this idea of it's The King in Yellow is a play, and if people read it, it changes them.
True.
So it's like Mulder just takes one look at this rubbing and it changes something in his mind, possibly permanently, as far as we know.
Well, I can give that to a point. It does read a bit weird though, doesn't it? That you just have to hold up a rubbing of thing, just run at Mulder enough to run away from you.
It's a creepy idea. Which is why it's used in horror so much, of just looking at something can be harmful to you.
Yeah.
I mean, it dates all the way back to looking at the Gorgon and turning to stone.
It's true. I mean, I think it's weird that Mulder never comes near the metal itself, which you think would have more of an effect than just the rubbing of it.
Yeah, but if that's the effect the rubbing's had on him, what would happen if he came into contact with the shard?
Well, we might find out next episode, except I'm not sure we do. I can't remember, actually.
But yeah, if even a representation of something holds so much power, it's kind of scary what the actual thing is.
That's true. We do have to ask why him, and not anyone else on the cast.
Is anything... Mulder was infected by the black oil?
Mind
you, wasn't Scully as well?
No, that was the game.
Oh, that was the game.
Scully,
That's cool,
however,
then.
was abducted.
Scully was abducted. Maybe it's something to do with the black oil, then?
I'll give you that one.
I can't think of any other, the conduit moment.
Yeah.
You said from the start, why has he not developed psychic powers after conduit?
I did.
Maybe this is them turning on.
Oh, okay. It kicked in for that little boy a lot faster, didn't it? Okay, I'll give you that one. At the same time, it's nice to see Chuck, though.
Oh, yeah. Chuck's little cameo, and it made sense to have him in for that.
Yeah,
this is his wheelhouse.
And the fact that Scully brought him in explicitly for that. And then there's that whole thing about Dr. Barnes as a debunker, and it seems to be that the implication is, at least, is that he's hiding very, very awkward bits of evidence that don't fit with what he's trying to assert. At the same time, though, he does seem to be more switched. I thought Dr. Barnes was a bit confused, because it's not clear if he's hiding stuff he doesn't like, or he's totally in on it with the conspiracy people.
I'd go for the latter, personally.
Well, I'd think that too, but that's not how he's presented at some points. In fact, I just find it weird, though, that... So, the guy comes from Africa with the fused bit of metal to show him. And as you said, this is a biology department, but we do get a slight explanation of the guy who's actually running it does have the third bit. And that's why.
And also has this theory about aliens being the progenitor of life on Earth, so maybe that makes it make more sense.
Yeah, so that kind of fits together.
You'd expect more for him to run to an anthropologist. But...
Yes. But I don't understand why the guy doesn't kill the real doctor, and instead just hides in his office and pretends to be him, given they kind of know the other guy has the other bit of metal, so why they haven't just bumped him off until Krychek does.
Questions.
Yeah, it's just things. Though the panspermia, as I think Scully calls it, it's kind of frustrating that she does say at the start that, it's a reputable explanation for the origin of life on Earth because no one can explain that precisely. And then for Mulder to assert it towards the end of the episode, and Scully just goes, "That's a myth, Mulder. No reputable scientist ever believes that." But they can't prove it, Scully, but it's plausible, and Mulder might have proof, so what are you doing?
Scully is oddly dismissive of theories in this episode, which is what science is built upon.
Yeah, it's one of those uniquely frustrating Scully moments again, though. How she's going to explain away a spaceship at this rate, I don't know, given that she can't fall unconscious like she did in Antarctica. She can't be trapped in a mine with lots of small greys who just delight in running past her in the dark.
She can still have her memories erased.
She could have memories erased, oh my god. Of course, we do know this is all hallucination from the fungus.
I think my biggest problem with this, and it's a problem that a lot of critics raised at the time, is that this was all heralded as, we've got rid of the syndicate, we can now do something totally new with the conspiracy. And we've gone straight back to, aliens are progenitors, which is, we knew this already, that was the entire point of Gibson Praise.
Yeah. And also, Cancerman is involved in the plot because, well, he just about is, he's barely in it. Do you notice he was first on the guest star list and he's like in one scene?
You only see him on the end of the phone when Fowley calls him.
He doesn't even talk.
And of course we brought Fowley back and Mulder still trusts her implicitly for some reason.
Yeah, it's no one going to say, hey, Fowley, where have you been? Because, last we saw you, we sent you to an aircraft hangar before those people died. And then you've vanished. And no one's heard about you since. Also, Fowley, I don't know how to do this delicately, but so when you talked to Scully and said you're going to take care of Mulder, then you called the cigarette smoking man, why did you then start taking off all your clothes?
Because she's alone with Mulder?
Mulder who's insensible and possibly not the time to sleep with Mulder.
We've also done the 180 with Skinner's character development as well.
Oh, God.
Which, to be fair, was put into place by SR819.
It was.
But now Skinner is untrustworthy again.
I think you nailed it before with the whole, a brand new direction for the conspiracy, which is the same as the old one, which is just, you can't trust Skinner, Cancerman's behind it all, Krychek is doing whatever Krychek does this week.
And aliens are oddly godly.
Yeah, the aliens have become holy in a way that you kind of played with in Tales of Kumi and then seem to drop.
And someone really needs to tell the Second Coming about this.
Yeah, because we're not seeing that kid again. And, aliens just decorate the outside of their ships with Bible verses, because sure, why not?
It's pretty.
It is pretty. Or the marker locations for the human genome.
I can't believe that when... Admittedly, I guess they didn't have it translated all the way, but when Chuck said it's meaningless, did he not tell Scully what the letters were? Because surely Scully would recognise the markers of the human genome.
Well, you think even Chuck would when he sort of say, AG, well, presumably you can, I suppose you can't translate it because the human concept of what AGTC stands for is almost certainly not how an alien would refer to it. Or what the Navajo, it depends how you're
But it's in Navajo, so if you can translate that through, you'd be saying, it's just says Gattaca over and over again.
But then that's reverse engineered though, isn't it? Because then that doesn't work that way around in logical sense, because this is the whole problem of having Bible verse in Navajo on the outside of your spaceship. None of this makes the slightest bit of sense.
I kind of liked, and it's just popped into my head now, but when you were saying earlier of how Ezra Rubbing had power over Mulder, Chuck did talk about magic squares and how they can be used to hold power.
Yeah.
So you've got the idea that these inscriptions are arranged as magic squares.
Yeah, and I do think that's what they were going with, and then that stops being relevant to the episode again. They just kind of drop it. I don't know if it's fair or not to criticise the fact there's some alarming production design diminishments in this episode. Like, the Sweat Lodge, the Native American Sweat Lodge, is clearly fabricated stone walls.
If you look at the sky in the background, it's very much a soundstage, I think, there as well.
It's, guys, you live near deserts. What do you do? Why is this happening? How is this happening?
It looked way better in The Blessing way.
It did, and we've had someone note, actually there's notes in some of the production things, isn't there, of they don't actually have as much money as they used to because they're in LA, which is kind of maddening, really. But we have a cliffhanger ending.
It's actually a fairly intriguing cliffhanger, truth be known.
Well, yeah, I suppose at least Mulder isn't thought to be dead this time.
No, Mulder's just crazy.
If they'd done that again, you'd go, well, why?
You've got Mulder deteriorating fast, and I hate the faux science of saying there's activity in areas of the brain that aren't used, because we all know this is faux science dating back to that idea of we only use 10% of our brains.
Yeah.
Which is false.
Yeah.
We use all of our brains. That's why it's all there. But at the same time, you've got this idea of Mulder has got some kind of degenerative mental condition that doesn't look good for him. And Scully is standing by herself at the other side of the world in front of a very, very real spacecraft. It's a dramatic ending for the series.
It is. It's also the kind of ending that I can really believe would have been where the series got cancelled. Like, there is no resolution to this cliffhanger. Like, pushing Daisy's last few episodes where you've set something up and you're not getting the rest of it because it's never coming out.
That still drives me mad.
I know, it drives me mad as well. And the fact that every attempt to do the rest of it has fallen through.
So luckily X-Files was not cancelled at this point then.
Wow. Well, luckily? Luckily. Are you sure about this?
Why do you even do this podcast? Person who hates the X-Files.
I really like Bad Blood.
Right, so we're past the bit of the series you wanted to talk about. That's comforting.
I really like Curse of the Were-Monster, and I really like The Lost Art of Forehead's One.
This is going to be a really, really awkward 3 more seasons to go before you get to one you want to review
And the Lone
again.
Gunner. No, there are still some good episodes. There are legitimately some good episodes coming up.
Good.
I'm going to have a little clip of this to play for you when we get to Six Extinction, because you might regret it.
I'm sure I probably will.
Okay, but if that's it, we're going to we'll get to Six Extinction next week.
Both parts of the Sixth Extinction.
Both parts of Six Extinction. This is going to be fun. However, we should talk about season 6
And what we thought of it as a whole.
So season 6 is not the best.
I think we had that person on our Twitter, I'm sorry I can't remember who you are to credit you, who said at the very start that it had the biggest peaks and troughs of any season.
I can see that, because there was that run of episodes where we were really kind of losing hope on everything, and I don't remember the season being as bad as this. We've said some of the previous seasons have had bad patches, but 6 has a real terrible slog at places.
But it does have some really good episodes too.
It does. I mean, Drive was the first actually good episode.
And you have some big plot points as well, like, in particular, the destruction of the Syndicate.
Yeah, and it does feel like with most of the conspiracy thinking, is they did that without any idea of what they were going to do instead.
We do bear in mind that we spoke about at the start of season 6 as well, that the big criticisms of the series is, one is the move to Los Angeles meant that production values changed and the whole feel of the series changed, a lot of people said.
Yeah, there are so many deserts now.
And another one is the idea that things have been simplified because they're trying to appeal to a bigger audience. And also as this is a stepping on point as well.
Yeah, although I made that point a few times of the X-Files technically has 3 pilots, which is, Pilot, then Deep Throat, and Little Green Men. I never for a second considered the beginning as a pilot episode, because that's an awful jumping on point.
I guess it's because they got a lot of new viewers from the movie.
Yeah, but still, it's as a jumping on point, it's really bad. Particularly as it doesn't actually really involve the film that much.
Or the end of season 5 for that matter.
No, it's really a bizarre.
So I suppose that's why you can take it as a stepping on point.
You could.
And I guess midpoint as well, if you're getting rid of the Syndicate, we could theoretically say that Biogenesis is going to be another stepping on point, because it's theoretically the start of a new conspiracy.
Theoretically, yeah. I mean, you are going to be saying, so who's the guy with the Russian name? I don't understand.
Yeah, I guess you would be a bit confused about Krychek.
I do always object to these situations when they say, oh, we want to simplify things to make it more appeal to more people. But the people who got it to this point in time, like it as it was, if you're going to change it to be something other than they liked, they're going to jump. And the new people you're going to get aren't going to hang around either, because they're missing 5 seasons worth of context.
I guess it's kind of treading that line of, do you want to keep your old fans or do you want to appeal to a wider demographic? A lot of series have to make their choice, and sometimes they get it right and sometimes they get it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's no clear-cut answer of which you should do.
No, and I do understand there's always a financial pressure to get more audience viewing figures, to get more money from the adverts and all the rest of it. But then we always get, this is the problem of financing versus art all the time, and no one has ever figured out the correct balance on these. But I think it's safe to say the X-Files has fallen on the wrong side of that one.
Yeah, that's my feelings. I think there was one criticism I read, I believe it was a field trip the other day, where someone kind of said it showed the X-Files could still do good episodes, while at the same time making you realise that nothing was going to be as good as the early seasons.
That's probably true. I mean, I do think it's the quality of the early seasons wasn't as great as I remember it being, and I think there are more misses than I would have remembered, but still, I think they were minority of the series.
Yeah.
And it's just 6 just seemed to be a quagmire of some really bad ideas.
I think it was some of the early series, as when we talked, as we will in a minute, about the worst episodes, I struggled to think of a couple, whereas in this one I struggled to whittle the list down.
There are an awful lot of bad episodes this time.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of middling ones as well. the ones you can happily watch, but you wouldn't say are standout.
Yeah, it's like when we were watching them again, I'd put the likes of Aguamala and Monday in that list.
Yeah.
They're not bad episodes, but I don't think I'd ever say they were one of my favourites.
Trevor as well, I think, is a big one. Well, actually, Trevor's in a really weird limbo space now, given that I never really liked the episode, but I don't think it's a bad episode. But Rob Bowman has turned it into a catastrophe. Thanks, Rob. Because I don't know what you were thinking.
Yes, we went over that a couple of episodes ago, but that was his belief that Trevor's ex-wife is actually the villain.
Yeah. What? Why?
Ex-girlfriend, sorry.
Ex-girlfriend,
I think she is. Yeah.
Why, Rob? This is madness.
Anyway, should we talk about our favourite parts of the series versus what people on Twitter said?
I feel we should. So, what does Twitter like?
Okay, actually, there weren't many hits on this, but the ones I did, and guys, you really can't count. I asked for you to give me your top 5, and I had some people giving me their top 7 and some just telling me 2 episodes. So I've just decided to include everything in this list for the sake of it.
Or maybe they only had 2 episodes they liked.
Yeah, true. But and they're all a tie. The most popular episodes were How the Ghost Stole Christmas.
Okay.
Aguamala. Both parts of Dreamland.
Kind of.
And The Rain King.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that one.
But other honourable mentions, Field Trip was mentioned, Arcadia was, Drive, Monday, and Milagro, I think. People also name dropped.
You're going to have to hold judgment on this one.
Mm.
Okay, and how do you factor into all that?
You want me to give you my list?
I would.
Which way? Do you want it?
We'll go, so start with 5.
Start with 5. So, okay, my honourable mention is Field Trip, because I didn't include it in my top 5, and I still wanted to mention it because I really like it.
Fair.
So I'll give that honourable mention. So 5 is The Rain King.
Okay.
4 is Drive.
Okay.
3 is Terms of Endearment.
Very good.
2 is Tithonus.
Cool.
And 1 is The Unnatural.
Ah.
So how about you?
Well, I completely missed all the honourable mentions, but I think, or did I? No, actually I did. So I've got 2 honourable mentions then, which I would put down as Arcadian Tithonus.
Okay.
But I possibly would put Drive on there as an 8th.
Oh, you missed Drive off your list.
I did. So in number 5, I put Field Trip.
Mm-hmm.
And number 4, I put Rain King.
Yep.
Number 3, Three of a Kind.
Okay.
Number 2, Terms of Endearment.
Mm-hmm.
And number 1, The Unnatural.
Okay, so we're both in agreement about the best episode.
We're both I mean, it's hard to sort of not... It's a very charming episode. It's very well acted. It's very well done. It's the most elegant alien-centric episode they've ever done.
It's kind of interesting that we put The Unnatural and Tithonus up there when they're ones that no one else mentioned on the Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, our reasons for liking Tithonus are both good and insane.
I like its atmosphere.
Yeah. But there's also the insane argument of, yay, Scully's now immortal. We have definitive proof.
I think I'm not going to really call him a villain in the episode,
No,
but the antagonist of the episode and the whole just kind of gothic tone of it is just really well done.
Oh, yeah. And it's one of the ones where, yeah, they kind of want him for this murder he did years and years ago, but get the impression that he would never do that again. He got desperate once and tried to force things and failed. And
he's never tried it again.
No, so it feels a bit odd to sort of end with that, or have Mulder sort of actually gunning for this guy. You have a functional immortal Mulder, you should probably try and talk to him first.
Yeah.
And find out if he needs to cut off people's heads or anything.
But yeah, having the Terms of Endearment and Rain King in there. Three of a Kind I thought was an interesting one for you to pick.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really do like, and this is going to come out to bite me, because I know it does. I just love the Lone Gunmen as a trio, and when they get to take centre stage like this, it's really fun to watch them bounce off each other. And like you said when we covered the episodes, just see them fit into the little niches they have now and how they work. And again, Three of a Kind is the thing that made me excited for when they said Lone Gunmen are getting their own series. It's like, excellent. They've done it twice. We know what they're going to do. Hold those thoughts until we've done with season 8, and then we'll get back to those thoughts. So, what didn't people like? Because I feel there's a lot, and I narrowed it down to like 2.
There are actually only 2 that people mentioned on Twitter.
Okay, because I think
you can possibly guess what they are.
I could, but I've been surprised before.
Okay. One of them is Trevor.
Okay.
The other, and undeniably the other, Alpha.
Okay. How about you then?
I'm going to say And I might be outside the box, and I'm about to be hated on Twitter, I think, for this.
Go on.
Alpha is by far the worst episode. I will stick
Yep.
to that. Milagro and Triangle are my other two that I don't like.
Well, I'd sort of give the honourable mention here, I think, to How They Go Stole Christmas, which is kind of a pet peeve. It's not really a bad episode. This is why it's honourable mention.
I thought about that one and not adding it to my list because I don't like that one either. But I wouldn't say it's a bad episode. It's just personal taste.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to have it as an honourable mention, because it's not a bad episode by most stretches of the imagination. It is, however, really blunt. It's really unsubtle, and I think it just wastes its premise.
Yeah.
But other than that, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. And I will also sort of say, coming around to it, but if you'd asked me prior to this, and all the way up to current podcast, we've been saying that Alpha is the worst episode. But we had a blast watching Alpha this time. Absolutely abysmal episode, terrible writing, terrible premise, terrible everything. What a hoot to watch, though.
Yeah, it's fun to make fun of.
Just Karen, the most insane NPC the X-Files has ever had. Detweiler, the worst monster of the week they've ever had.
But played by a tremendous actor who's really good at playing villains.
But he's such a worthless monster, though, because he doesn't do anything. And has powers that he doesn't use and kills people for no reason.
But you cannot deny that Alpha is not only the worst episode of the series, but one of the worst episodes we've seen overall.
Indeed not, but it's like The Room and Planet from Outer Space. I kind of love it. As well. It's awful, but I actually really enjoyed Alpha.
Fair enough. What are your worst episodes then?
Oh, but it's sort of, there's a whole load of them. I also didn't like Triangle. Dreamland is not what I remember it being. It's far too long for the concept.
I remember before we began, you were very excited about seeing Dreamland again as well.
And it's really disappointing to look at it again and go, yes, you needed to cut so much of this out for it to work. It can work, but not like this. And just there's a whole load of other ones, little bits and pieces. Monday as well, I sort of got really disappointed by. And I think a lot of that's because while it might have seemed like a novel thing to do Groundhog Day as a TV episode in 1999, there are so many better examples of the same premise now.
Still not Groundhog Day.
Well, I know it's not officially Groundhog Day, but we went over this. There's the setup, as much as they say the setup is a Twilight Zone, the actual way the episode is structured is Groundhog Day. But the actual worst episode, in my regards, because it was 1 billion years long and I wanted to die, is Milagro. Because what was that?
I know you hate Milagro.
And so do you.
Yeah, again, it's not what I remembered. I remembered Milagro actually being better than it was.
I remember being inoffensive at worst, but watching it through, it's like nothing's happening. And Scully is being seduced by this loser writer guy.
I think the mischaracterization of Scully is what irritates me the most about it.
There is that, yeah, I don't understand how she's getting seduced by this guy. I don't understand what he's doing. I don't understand half of the visuals. I don't understand why he lives next door to Mulder, other than convenient location shooting. I don't understand why he sends a Milagro to Scully in a plain unmarked envelope that the FBI receptionist put under the door.
Yeah, can't argue with that.
And I really don't understand the ending, I think, more than anything else. I mean, I get that the doctor vanishes because he tore his own heart out.
Yeah.
Is anyone going to talk about the corpse that tore its own heart out? I feel that deserves some investigation. You're not usually able to do that.
We just don't talk about it
We
anymore.
don't talk about Okay.
Okay, and Monster of the Season.
Monster of the Season. Okay, what do people say? Oh, wait, you showed me some of these, and they go, okay, I can't argue with you, but really?
The creature was described on Twitter as both being the mud monster and the poop monster.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the tulpa from Arcadia.
I think we always, I suppose we never specified monster or villain, but I don't think...
Oh, I did. I said monster or villain.
I mean, it's an okay monster. I mean, I think we can do better.
It's cool looking.
It's cool looking. It's a unique thing.
The other ones that people mentioned are the parasitic worms from Aguamala.
Yeah, they're kind of jellyfish, weren't they? I thought they were jellyfish.
I think at least what it looked like more was a hydrozoan more than anything. You're thinking of like the single-celled organisms that make up the tentacles of a man-o'-war
Okay.
we're looking at. A kind of large parasitic creature.
Okay.
And the other one, which I actually thought was pretty good, is Diana Fowley.
I mean, I can see how you got that. I mean, I don't think she's actually in this season enough, really.
But she is detestable.
She is detestable.
I've spoken at length about how much I hate her. Physically hate her.
I know.
But
I don't quite understand how she's got this far in, really.
yeah, I still think it's a good call for saying who's the biggest villain of the series.
Yeah, because there's a logic there.
Especially as Fowley is still a threat because Mulder just will not believe that she is a villain.
True. But I mean, personally, we have always taken villain as the one you actually enjoy, not the one you hate.
I imagine we are both about to say the same villain.
I
in that
imagine we are
case.
about to say the same villain.
Is it Wayne?
It is Wayne. I mean, again, it's not just that it's Bruce Campbell, which helps a lot with the charisma thing, but it's also here is someone who is ostensibly doing really awful things. He's lying to everyone. He's forcibly aborting babies. He's burying them in the backyard. He's doing it out of a tremendous sense of love and family, which is absolutely insane.
And he's so likable.
And he's so likable, and you really feel bad for him when he discovers how he's been tricked by someone who wanted the reverse of what he did. And she got exactly what she wanted out of the situation.
I'm going to give honourable mention. I think Pinker Rawls is a good character as well, from Trevor.
Okay.
I like the development he gets and how your opinion of him completely swings throughout the episode.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I also, because people kept mentioning the Tulpa, in my head the Tulpa's the tool. I'm going to give Gogolak as the bigger villain.
Yeah, I'd say Gogolak deserves a bit more.
Especially as he's a very human villain. Unlike most of the X-Files ones, is you can imagine a person like this existing. Someone who will kill to maintain their perfect community.
Yeah, I will also give Gogolak an additional credit for saying the most sensible thing any villain has ever said to Mulder.
No one will believe you.
Well, no, it's my lawyers are going to make you look so stupid.
Yeah.
And it's good. Yes, they will. You are not getting this through court. He will be laughed out of the courtroom. So yeah, I do appreciate Gogolak for that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, it's things like the ghosts aren't great in Hold the Ghost for Christmas.
I wanted to give more credit to Detweiler in Alpha as well.
He's not actually that fun.
It's in part because he's played by a very, very good actor, but they just waste him in the episode.
And you could argue more as Fletcher, but then he's not even the villain of Dreamland, really.
No.
But that was season 6, so we press on next week to season 7, where we know, and though it has an asterisk next to it, this is theoretically Dave Duchovny's last season.
Theoretically.
So next week, obviously, we have Six Extinction, Part 1, and Six Extinction, Part 2, Amafati. God, the pretentious titles in this series. You thought Gethsemane was bad.
Yeah. Amafati is something else.
Until then, our email address is thingsatgettingstrange42@gmail.com.
You can also get us on social media, and please do if you would like us to promote anything for you at the start of the show, be it conventions, fan events, any neat art you've got on the go, just hook me up. We are on Twitter and Tumblr at GetStrange42. We are on Mastodon at GetStrange42@universedon.com, and you can find us on Facebook by searching for Things Are Getting Strange and X-Files Rewatch Podcast. Additionally, and if you're not sick of my voice right now, I also have a channel on Twitch TV called AdverseCamber42 and a connected YouTube channel of the same name. I stream 3 times a week, Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 PM GMT and Saturdays at 5 PM GMT, playing whatever I'm currently playing on the PlayStation 5. This is currently Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, but I also have a silent stream of the new Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that is exclusive to my YouTube channel, so do check that out if you're interested.
We have a Patreon, patreon.com/thingsargettingstrange, where you can find the first 4 parts of our Let's Play of the X-Files game, with Part 5 due in April. We had a lot of fun, we had a lot of deaths, we had a lot of cutting out chunks of the episode where we flailed around and tried to navigate really barren locations and tried to find the one clue.
And tried to make it bearable when I spent almost an hour scouring a warehouse to find a cigarette stub.
Yeah, I cut all of that out. Because no one wants to watch that. I mean, we stopped saying anything after a while because it was just sort of tedious scanning a room.
Dear viewer, I eventually found the cigarette stub.
Yeah. You can also find our review of Mulder and Scully by Catatonia as we attempt to review pop songs. And all our other non-TV, non-film X-Files ephemera will wind up there as well as we go on. Novels, the other video game, board games, trading card games, virtual museum tours, and any other bits and pieces we run across that feel relevant.
If there's anything you'd like to see, let me know on Twitter or the other social medias.
Our theme music is envisioned by Kevin MacLeod. You can find that on Compotech.com, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, please remember,
Trust no one.